I wanted to give you guys a little update on the AIO stuff. I don't know if everybody's, not probably not everybody's interested in that, but this is kind of a new evolving technology. And it's, to me, it's very exciting because it's kind of like, like I've been dropped back into the tank where SEO started. And for most of you that have known me for a while, you know that I literally thrived in that era because very few people really knew how to do it. And because I was one of them, I got massive advantage out of that. And I feel like I'm just dropped back in time into that tank again. So it's very exciting for me, even though, some of you might not see the benefit to it or whatever. But if you want to be a service provider, to other companies and things, it's a huge benefit. Now, I don't say that to try and sidetrack anybody out of what you're doing. If you've got something going, opportunity is not always opportunity. Sometimes you're better off to just stay focused and get what you're doing up to speed and make your money with it and all of that. But there are some people that are in SEO. We have a lot of people that are site pop users, and a lot of them are agencies. They supply services to other businesses. And they're really excited about this thing coming down the pipe because they're struggling. They've been struggling for a long time. Like SEO is like any other thing that it's great when you're a provider and you're like one of the only providers. But once the market floods and it gets oversaturated, it starts getting more and more difficult to make a living. And when you're fighting something like, a Goliath, like Google, they get really good at making your life a living hell, with all of their algorithms and stuff. And it was funny, our main lead developer, Chris, who runs our SitePop software and runs our dev team, he just contacted me last night. We were on Skype going over some results, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "Have you noticed anything with Google?" He says, "We're seeing some very strange trends, on the results, on the ranking." And I'm like I got to be honest with you, I stopped following like SEO and following what Google was doing like over a year ago. So I haven't even looked. But I've heard some rattle about, a big algorithm shift, and sure enough, we started looking at the analytics from SitePop, and sure enough, starting at the end of February, there was some radical changes in the results, and it was very pattern related. Like we're watching people that had like number one or top three listings for over a year were dropping to page 100. And it was like every time we looked, it was page 100 that they got dropped to. And I told Chris, I said, I've seen this before. That's not necessarily an algorithm shift. That's them testing. They shuffle the deck. And then what you notice in the analytics, it drops to page 100. And it was only there for a day, some cases up to 3 days. And then they popped right back where they were. And I told Chris, I said, that I've seen that many, many times. And it's one of two things. It's either Google testing your nerves, which this is something that I find really amusing, and most people just kind of freak out. They don't like it because they've done all this work and then all of a sudden, poof, and it's gone. It just vanishes. And what Google is doing is they're dropping your results to see what you do. And if you change course at all, they're looking, they're waiting. It's like a mouse trap, or in this case, like a bear trap. They're looking to saw your limbs off with a bear trap. So let's say you're doing link building or you're doing anything SEO related, and they drop your results and all of a sudden you change to try and counter it, then they've got you. They know that you were manipulating their results and they'll flat kick your ass out. I mean, in some cases, they'll actually drop you from the index. They haven't really done as much index dropping as they were, in the past, but still, that's what that pattern is. That is a manipulated result to see what you're going to do. And I always tell everybody it's like that antiperspirant commercial, never let them see you sweat. The biggest thing in this time frame when they drop your rank, the biggest best thing you could possibly do is nothing. Just nothing. Let it run its course. They'll see you're not countering and they'll just turn that filter off and you'll go right back where you started. And I've seen this in most cases. This happens for a day and most people don't even know it happened, but they do it all the time. In some cases, in one case, and I always tell everybody, just hold steady. I know you're sweating, but don't do anything. And that's really hard for a lot of people. And especially when it goes like a week or 2 weeks. In one case, throughout my whole SEO career, in one case, we had it go for a month. And I even started second guessing myself at a month out. But we held the course, and then all of a sudden, the next day, boom, it was right back where it started.
Now, where would you see that? Would you see that in your Google Analytics account or another tool?
We would see it in our rank trackers. Like with SEO, we would always run rank trackers. We would put our set of keywords that we were tracking, and we would look at those analytics. But you could do that. Google Analytics could give you, actually, I don't know if Google Analytics is giving you the actual keyword rank tracking anymore.
No, I don't think they do.
I think they removed that quite a while ago. But we would have actual rank tracking software with every SEO campaign that we would run. We would use like Rank Tracker, and you put your keywords in, and then it follows and it gives you a chart, a map of how your keywords are flowing. And that was a very, very common practice. It still is. Anybody that's doing real SEO, I mean, you have to measure your results, and you measure your results in SEO by tracking the rank. Now, that said, there's a lot of things in SEO that are really hard to track. Like, for instance, let's say you're tracking 10 keywords. When you do things with SEO to effectively push those 10 keywords up, what's really happening is you're probably pushing 100, if not 1,000 other keywords up. It costs money to track the rank, so you only typically track a few keywords, like 10 or 12. But it could effectively be pushing up hundreds that you're not seeing the results of that. So a lot of times what will happen is you pick the wrong keywords to start with, and you pick really competitive keywords and you don't see any results. But you don't see the results in the box that you're monitoring, and you don't see what's happening outside with all those other hundreds or thousands of keywords. So in a lot of cases, you are getting benefit from what you're doing. You're just not tracking it, so you don't see it. And I've seen a lot of people that pull the plug on SEO way too early because they're not seeing the results, and they're not they don't know how to feel them. Like, I've had people that were starting to get more sales, they're starting to get more traffic, but because it wasn't from the set of keywords that we were monitoring that they wanted, which really were the wrong ones because they're too competitive, they would pull the plug on their SEO program altogether. So I got real picky and choosy about taking on clients that had unrealistic expectations. I would make sure that, the keywords that we were going to do an SEO campaign on were realistic so we could show them results in the short term so we wouldn't lose them. Because that was like a very, very common problem for SEO people. They would take on clients that had unrealistic expectations, and all of a sudden, it's 90 days in and they can't move the needle on those hardcore keywords, which might take a year. So I would always focus on keywords that we knew we could effectively move the needle in 90 days, the low-hanging fruit. And by doing that, if you're moving up low-hanging fruit keywords, you're also moving up your ability to rank the harder keywords. Like, let's say a low-hanging fruit keyword, you might be at number 30, just for instance. On the high competition keyword, you might be at 5,000. So if you focus on the low-hanging fruit keyword and you move it up to the top 10, you could have taken that other one that was 5,000 deep and moved it up into the top 100. And then what you do is you take the next one that's at 30, you focus on that, you move that up into the top 10, and now you took the one you really wanted and you might have moved it up into the top 30. And that is how you effectively move through getting somebody really solid SEO strategy. And as many times as I've said that over the years, it goes in one ear and out the other. But it's the reality and you can't change it. It's a long-term game to get really, really effective keywords up to the top. And a lot of people discount what an effective keyword really is. They will go for generic keywords because of search volume. Now, here's a really, really good distinction. Search volume doesn't equal sales volume. This is something very, very important for you to understand. I'm gonna say it again. Search volume does not equal or equate to sales volume. That's a very, very important key point to get. And a lot of cases, in fact, in most cases, what I've seen as a reality is the longer tail keywords with the smaller volumes is actually where the sales come from. And if you think about this, I use this example in presentations going back as far as 2010. I use the example of somebody that goes online to search for tires for their car. And their first search is tires, right? So a tire company thinks they want to rank number one for tires. Well, when that person searches on tires, what they see in the results is every kind of tire imaginable. Bicycle tires, truck tires, car tires. It's everything. It's everything tires. So that consumer now just took the first step of education to making the purchase of their tires. And the first thing that they learned was, oh, I'm not really looking for tires. I'm looking for car tires specifically for, a certain type of car, right? A certain size tire. And then all of a sudden, they run that search. And they might run two or three searches in this process to get to the actual tire that they want that fits their car. And then the next search is, well, if they're in New York City, let's say, they don't want to be buying a tire in Washington, D.C., or Oregon State. So then they refine the search down even further to their location. They want that particular tire in this location that installs this afternoon. So ultimately, that is the keyword that you want to rank for because that's where your sales come from. Your sales don't come from generic keywords. Generic keywords have massive volumes, but they have massive volumes of people that don't know what they're doing, that are not, they don't have the credit card in their hand. They're not ready to purchase. Those longer keywords, they call those long tail keywords. If you really do the research in your market and your ideal customer, and you figure out what they're searching for, what their process is, their thought process, you want the last phrase that they search on, not the first one. The last one is where they've got it down, they've done all their research, their buying cycle is done, they're ready to purchase. That's where you want to show up in front of them. Now, there are arguments to this that if you bring somebody in, like pyramid of awareness, most people are unaware they're at the base of the pyramid. That's where your biggest opportunity is. But your sales come from the top of the pyramid. The most aware, the ones that know what they want, they've done all the research, they're ready to make the purchase. That's where I want to show up. I don't want to do all the work from taking them from the bottom of the pyramid and educating them all the way through the process. I'd rather intersect them when they've got the credit card in the hand. They know what they want and they want me, right? That's where I want to show up in front of them. And you can back that out as far back as you want down the pyramid and decide that, that might be your best bet for a keyword. But for me, I'm going to go for the long tail all day long, even though it's low volume. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. I had a client, they do water parks. They actually, it's $100 million projects. If they make a sale, it's 100 million plus. Do they need high volume? No, they need one sale every year or two. So will I fight like hell for a keyword that has one person searching a month? Hell yeah, I will. Because that one person's $100 million person. So I hope that makes sense. But anyway, that's kind of a that's kind of like a little historical thing about SEO. And the whole purpose behind SEO is sales. It's getting your message in front of somebody that's ready to purchase your product. And that is the new opportunity. And that opportunity still exists. There's no doubt about it. SEO is still alive and well. It's just very difficult to do because of the competition. But now you've got a new version of that, which is the AI optimization. And it's getting your site optimized for AI to say, hey, you're the best one when somebody asks. So I really think, I truly believe that most people are figuring out AI gives them better results than Google ever did. Google gives you a page of 10, and then it gives you an unlimited number of pages after the 10 that you can scroll through and you can look and you can decide, but it's kind of like you're on your own to figure out if they're bullshit or whatever. Whereas the AI, it might give you 10, but it'll give you the pros and cons of each one. And you can ask it further questions without having to go through all the research phase yourself. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. I rarely use Google at all anymore. I'm using Perplexity. I'm asking Perplexity anything I want to know, anything I want to buy, I'm figuring it out through Perplexity. And actually, I'm not figuring out anything. I'm just figuring out how to ask the questions. It's figuring it all out for me. And it's just been an incredible transition, an incredible evolution of the internet search. And if you think about it, the search box in AI is functions almost identically to the search box in Google. You ask it something, it gives you the answer. And in the in the case of AI, it's actually giving you an answer. In the case of Google or any search, it's just giving you options. You're still on your own to figure it out. And the problem with SEO inherently since the beginning was scammers being able to put their crap at the top. That's been the problem right from the get-go. That's why SEO exists. That's why the search engine algorithms exist, to try and protect themselves from somebody coming in and gumming up their results, which has happened since the beginning. Ever since this game started, there's been a cat and mouse game of what can I do to get my site at the top, even though my stuff might not be the best, right? And that's all about that algorithm. There's a lot of smart people out there in SEO that can figure out those algorithms and figure out what to do to manipulate the results to get themselves at the top. And most of them don't have the best product. Little secret there, little spoiler alert. Most of the ones that know how to game the system and get to the top are scammers. Like I don't I don't like to feel like I was a scammer. I was always doing this for legitimate companies. And if it wasn't somebody that I believed in, I wouldn't take them on. But there was a lot of people in this business, and there still are. They don't probably don't have the ethical fortitude that I had and have. So, but anyway, update on the AiO stuff. The AiO Dominator, for any of you guys that jumped in on that, I've rehashed the tools as of last Friday. So the tool set is pretty much up to date at this point. I've got a couple of people that are, more tech oriented that have been going through using the tools, and I'm getting some feedback now. If anybody that is really used to this stuff is using those, I'd love to have a short Zoom call with you just to kind of get your feedback on it. And we can line that up. But what I've seen is there's still some redundancy, and there's still some, like, and this is inherent with AI. If you ask it the same question twice, it's going to give you two different answers. And we're seeing a little bit of that with our on-page optimization tools. So I don't really know how to get around that. I don't know that it's really a problem, because in most cases, when you're doing any kind of optimization for AI, anything is better than nothing. So if you do something, let's say you take the results that it gives you and you implement those changes in your website, it's just like any other SEO tactic. You put them out, you measure the results, and then you make adjustments. So if whatever you've put in there isn't working after 90 days or so, then you can go back, rerun some of the tools, update your content, and try it again. It's going to be a little bit of trial and error. We have not gotten to the point yet where we can see predictable results and be able to equate that to the magic formula like we had in SEO. It took a while in the beginning to do that with SEO. So that's where we're at. But we've got, some good people working on this. And that is one of the things that made me so much better at SEO and figuring things out in the beginning. It was because I had an army. I had literally an army of people that were taking, my direction, doing this stuff and feeding me back the results. I'm really good at deciphering data. So that's my key thing, is to put it out there, let people do the work, because you know how lazy I am. I'm not going to do it. No matter how you slice it, that just ain't going to happen. But when I've got an army of people doing this stuff, and then I'm seeing all the results across the board, I can make really good use out of that data and then feed back to my army how to improve across the board. And that literally is how I got so good so fast at SEO. It wasn't through brute force of my own efforts. It was a collective effort. I was just spearheading the analysis and the master plan moving forward. And it worked really well. I expect it to work just as well here. So, update on the site pop. Site pop is getting renamed. I talked to Chris about that again last night. We will be renaming it. One of the things that we decided to do, we made this shift last night. Anybody that has site pop currently is going to get the new version included. It's going to be no additional cost. It's just going to roll out inside your SitePop tool. And we're renaming SitePop to Rainmaker. We're going back to our original Rainmaker. So SitePop is going to fade into the distance and Rainmaker is going to emerge out of the ashes. So Rainmaker is going to be the new Phoenix. It's going to rise from the ashes. Anybody that's buying into it, it's going to be the same pricing, the same structure, and anyone will be able to re-engage or start fresh or whatever. But the tool set inside is going to be different. With SitePop, we had 5 different types of campaigns you could run. And in the new Rainmaker, there's only going to be 3. So, and it's going to be the 3 best ones. We've eliminated some of the others because they, for one, just weren't being used. The market wasn't the right size, so we just flat abandoned it. And this goes back to what I teach you guys every week about ACT. You've got to be nimble. You've got to look at data. If the market size isn't big enough to justify your sales goals, it's not a profitable thing for you to do. So you need to drop it. And that's exactly what we did. We dropped the Amazon. I know there was some people using it and it worked, but there wasn't enough people using it for it to be a viable, profitable market segment for us. So we dropped it. And the same thing with the GMB, doing the Google My Business optimization. What we found on that long term was when you do site pop for the website for Google, it affects the GMB straight across, one for one value. So there was no reason for us to support 2 systems to do the same thing. If you did it for GMB, it pushed the site up. If you did it for the site, it pushed the GMB up. So we only need one, and Google is the top banana. So in the new system rolling out, it's going to be Google. There'll be a Google option. There will be a YouTube option because YouTube is massive now. It's a massive popular thing. Everybody's doing videos, especially with AI. Everyone's doing AI videos. So we're doing Google, YouTube, and AI. So there's an AI option in there. We didn't complicate it. We're having the AI, since we've got so many devices in the network, we didn't have to pick and choose like which AI large language model we were going to focus on. We're just hitting them all. So it's going to be a little difficult to report on, but we're trying to figure out, we're going to do probably like a month update. Reporting won't be live like it is in Google. What we'll do is we'll do a monthly analysis report of, okay, at the beginning of the month, you were here. Throughout the month, now you're here. And basically, at that end of the month report, it's also going to give you recommendations of possibly why you're not where you need to be, of what to do, what to test on the next month so you can do better. Because our signals that we're sending with the site pop or the new Rainmaker, those signals aren't going to really change. If we're sending those signals and it's not effectively moving you up, there's probably something else wrong that you need to fix, and the report will identify that. Maybe you need to change your on-page content. Maybe you need to change your tags. We just recently found out that there is specific code tags that we weren't aware of when we started this journey. We just discovered that this week. There's certain code that you can put into your site. It's almost like an alt tag where it has information that's not viewable to the website viewer, but it's viewable to the search engine and it's viewable to any bot that's reading the site. See, the difference is from a user to an agent. In search, an agent is a bot, basically. It's something that's reading your site outside of a person. So it's like a Google bot. It's all the AI have these agents. So there's specific code that the search engine looks to in HTML that it can read and understand what the site's about. And then that output of that HTML is the visual part that the people see. Well, there's code that you can put in to the HTML that the machine can read, but the humans don't see. You can hide a lot of shit in your code that those search engines or those agents will just eat up and love. So that's one thing that we found was there's a particular type of code that could be added to the HTML that the AI models thrive on. And possibly if your site doesn't have these, it'll be overlooked. So it's important that you don't rely 100% on Rainmaker to make this happen. It just like in SEO, there's three pieces to the puzzle. You have on page, which is your code. That's the content of your site. That's your tags behind the scenes that nobody sees, just the agents see those. And then you have off page optimization. So the code of your site, that's called on page. The off page is more authority. And that's where people link to you. That's where people talk about you. That's where citations are. A citation is somebody that's sending people to you. And in a lot of cases, a citation is specifically referenced as a directory listing. Somebody else with a listing of resources has listed you or put a link to you in that listing, and it has all of your contact information. Typically, that's a directory. Those type of instances are called citations. So that's in SEO, that's a big thing, getting citations. That's third-party resources to validate your existence. It's a form of authority. So that's a big part of Google's algorithm. We see that as also being a big part of AI. AI is looking to these things. Like when you go in and ask AI, like what's important about optimizing to get referred through AI, it's going to tell you that. It refers to it as an EEAT. It's an EAT factor. And basically, if you break that down, it's all about authority. It's every piece of EAT is about authority and trust. That's what the T is in the EAT. It's trust. So if you don't have those references off page, you can't build a high EAT score. You don't have any authority, any trust, any of that going on. You're probably not going to rank very well. So you got on page, you have off page, and then you've actually got user interaction, which is the signals. Now, before we started doing Site Pop or our original Rainmaker, that was the part that was impossible for an SEO guy to accomplish. They could do the on page. Anybody can do that. Anybody that has access to your site code can effectively manipulate your on page optimization. That's easy. Getting the external links coming in, that's easy still, but it's work. So you have easy, and then you have hard, and then you have impossible. Impossible is manipulating your users into how they're going to interact with your website. And that's where we built the original Rainmaker. And that got converted into SitePop when we discovered that mobile devices were taking over the ranking factors. Originally in 2011, when we developed the first iteration of Rainmaker, it was all desktop and it was all signals coming from people's physical desktops. And it worked great. It worked great for years. And then all of a sudden it started to decline in its effectiveness. And when we were looking at the results, it was declining, but mobile signals were increasing. That's where we kind of abandoned the initial Rainmaker and we redeveloped it under the name of SitePop. So SitePop leverages mobile signals to do this. Now, here's what's really interesting. When we first started this in search, you didn't need mobile signals. And in AI right now, you don't need mobile signals. It's like the beginning of SEO. So we can go back to desktop. We don't need 1,000 mobile devices in the network to get this thing to fly. We have them, so we're going to leverage them. But this thing can work off of normal desktop. That's really cool. So we'll be even ahead of the game on this because we'll have the mobile built right in because we already have the system in play. So we'll be just light years ahead on that one. But this is very exciting stuff, and we are pedaling behind the scenes under the water very quickly to get this up to speed. So any of you that are going to leverage this and sell this, either as a white label, selling it to other providers, or using it as a provider, selling services to businesses, this is going to be a blockbuster. Either way, no matter how you slice it, the only way where this is just going to be good and not great and outstanding and over the top is if you're just doing it for yourself. And it's going to be good because it'll get you what you need, but there's so much more that you could get out of it. If you were selling the services or actually providing the services, there's so much more money probably than you just promoting yourself and selling whatever you're doing. So just depends on where you see opportunity, where your opportunities lie.
So John, do you have any recommendations on the, I guess I want to start with the AiO stuff.
Uh-huh.
Starting with them, testing them and see what differences you are actually making. You talked about testing and seeing what the results are. How would you do that?
Yeah. So what you would do, like let's say you were using the AiO Dominator software, you would start running through the tools, start analyzing your site, taking the recommendations and implementing those on your site. I don't know offhand yet of any type of commercial software or anything to monitor rank, of how to monitor the rank of AI. But what you could do on your own is you could go into the AI, like let's say you load up Perplexity or Chat GPT, and you go on there and you basically just ask it, who's got the best sun protection in the form of an umbrella, right? And see what it says. If it doesn't come up with you, you're not there yet. Now, one of the things that what we're doing with the Rainmaker software is that's what we're doing. We're having a user in the network ask that question on your behalf. And if it doesn't come back with UV umbrellas is the way to go, then it asks another follow-up question. It says, "Oh, that's interesting. I've heard about these UV blocker umbrellas. Are you aware of them?" And it'll actually give the URL. So now all of a sudden, we just led that machine, that learning machine, to go learn about your product.
And that's the Rainmaker?
That's the Rainmaker, yes.
Okay.
And when it comes back, it's going to come back and it's going to say, "Oh, you might be right. I think this is the best thing." And now it just learned something. So when the next guy comes through and asks the same question, it might just serve up a different answer. And we're going to have a whole army of users that can do that for you in the Rainmaker software. And that's what we'll be reporting on. Collectively, all the data that we get from all the users in the network, we'll be pooling that in, and we'll be able to form a report at the end of the month to say, okay, this many questions were asked. This is the amount of times that the referral wound up pointing to you. And that way we'll be able to track it. But outside of our tracking for that, I don't know of any commercial software that is doing that yet. I think as the industry evolves, like rank tracker software will be made for AI. It's just we're not there yet. We are in like day one of AI optimization. Literally. We're like back in the days when we didn't even know what to call SEO. We knew what we could do and we knew how to do it, but it didn't even have a name yet. That baby hadn't even been named. So it was fresh out of the womb, just like this one is. So it's a really, really cool place to be. And especially since I almost grew up in the SEO field. It's like when I started in SEO, I was a young man and I'm no longer that anymore. So taking that, and I always said, one of the things I said is, man, if I could go back in time, knowing what I know now, think about the effectiveness, think about the damage I could do. And I just got that opportunity. Think about it, knowing what I know about optimization, I just got taken back in time to the beginning. So I'm gonna like think about that. I started in SEO in about 1995, and I didn't come out with a Rainmaker software till 2010. So that's 15 years. I just gave myself a 15-year head start because I've got Rainmaker now on day one. So I'm going to get to live that experience of, oh, if I could only take the knowledge I have now and go back in time, well, I just did. So